there were rumors that Roman Reigns could win the Intercontinental title, thus adding him to the list of wrestlers who have won the Intercontinental Championship, the United States Championship, a Tag Team Championship, and a Top Tier Championship, therefore making him a Grand Slam Champion? Well, now, as far as I'm concerned, this doesn't make him a Grand Slam Champion, and no disrespect to anybody else who has captured these titles, but this is a completely separate accomplishment. The real Grand Slam Champion is totally different, and the first real Grand Slam Champion of all time is, of course, Shawn Michaels.
What? Do you have a fever?
No, I don't have a fever, alright?
But you're defending the douchebag.
I'm not defending him, I'm just defending factual accuracy, okay? Alright? I'm not just, you know what? Let's just do the damn episode, okay? Just go on. The Grand Slam Champion is actually a term that comes from other sports. In baseball, a Grand Slam is when you hit a home run with all the bases loaded. So you can see what the logic here is. Since there's the same amount of titles as there are bases, obviously this must be what it means to be a Grand Slam Champion, right? Well, not so fast, because previously WWE already had their titles that made up their Grand Slam Championship, but they were not the same as the titles that they're using now. And the original logic followed the baseball analogy even better, because it was less about quantity as it was more about quality. It was the level of the title that was more important than just having a variety of belts. And yes, Shawn Michaels is credited as being the first Grand Slam champion, at least under this old regime. The titles under this old guard were the Intercontinental title, the World title, the Tag Team titles, and of course, the European Championship. For you see, at the time, being a Grand Slam champion meant winning a primary title, a secondary title, a tag team title, and a tertiary title. In WCW, a wrestler would have to win the World title, the US title, the tag title, and the TV title to be considered a WCW Grand Slam champion. Now in the WWF, on the other hand, once the hardcore belt came into the picture, that was added to the list as another tertiary title. Men who have won the Grand Slam champion in the WWE under this old criteria include Triple H, Kane, Chris Jericho, Kurt Angle, Eddie Guerrero, Rob Van Dam, Booker T, Jeff Hardy, JBL, Christian, and The Big Show. Now, as stated, it wasn't about capturing every title, it was more about capturing a title in each tier. And all of these men have won each a primary title, either the WWE or the World title, a secondary title, which would be the Intercontinental Championship, a tag title from either Raw or SmackDown, and either the European title or the Hardcore Championship. However, there are a couple of things to note here. First is that all of these titles must be won in the WWE. It doesn't count if you win an equivalent title somewhere else. So even though the WCW tag belts did merge with the WWE tag team titles, winning them only in WCW doesn't contribute to your Grand Slam tally. If it did, then wrestlers like Raven, who have won the WWE Hardcore title along with ECW's World title and WCW's US and tag titles, would of course have to count. But he doesn't, even though all those belts technically became WWE titles at some point. Also, it's interesting to note that the United States title doesn't really count under this old way either. Whether it was won in WCW or WWE, it is not definitively part of the Grand Slam. Yes, it is a secondary title, and yes, the WWE is currently counting it among the Grand Slam titles right now. But it doesn't count for the original format. It doesn't really matter anyway, because there are no wrestlers who have won the World, Tag, and either the Hardcore or European title, but have only won the United States belt and not the Intercontinental title. So there you go. But on a side note, Chris Jericho has won every single title possible for this old regime. He's the only man who has ever won both tag team titles, both primary championships, both the Hardcore and European titles, and the Intercontinental Championship, as well as the United States Championship. Jeff Hardy has done almost the same, but he has never won the US belt. At least, not yet. Now for a little bit of history. The idea behind the tier system was introduced after the original brand split. Before that, there was one primary title only and one tag team title only. Shawn Michaels was the first to win these original Grand Slam belts and did so before the introduction of the Hardcore title. The next three Grand Slam champions, Triple H, Kane, and Jericho, actually joined the list after the Hardcore title was introduced, but before the original brand split. Now, if you feel that there is some value to winning it before the brand split because of the fact that there were fewer titles, then things can get a little bit dicey if you try to break it down. For example, if post-brand split doesn't count, then does Rob Van Dam count? So well, yes, he did become a Grand Slam champion after the original brand split. He won all the titles in it before the brand extension, except of course for the WWE title, which is the OG title. So shouldn't Rob Van Dam count since he did win all the original titles and not any brand extension belts? But also, on that note, if we're going to change with the times to accept post-brand split, then I suppose we also have to change with the times yet again and accept that there is a new Grand Slam Championship, now don't we? Because without any tertiary titles, the WWE has halted their options to having new Grand Slam champions, which is something that they do not want to do. So because of that, they simply had to start including the United States title in addition to the other belts to create a new Grand Slam Championship. But with that comes a whole new list of wrestlers, since not everyone has won the US title. In which case, Kurt Angle is actually the first to win either primary title, either tag title, as well as both secondary titles. Also, remaining on this list is Eddie Guerrero, The Big Show, and Chris Jericho. However, we have to say goodbye to Christian, JBL, Booker T, Rob Van Dam, Kane, Shawn Michaels, and Triple H. But we get to welcome Edge, The Miz, Daniel Bryan, and Dean Ambrose. Oh, and another problem with the old way is which titles count and which don't under the tier system. The fake ECW title doesn't count as a primary title either, which, you know, I get. Also, cruiserweight titles don't seem to count for anything, because if it did count as a tertiary title, then Rey Mysterio would get to join the club. And in addition, on the tertiary title front, there are other belts to consider. For example, if Zack Ryder won the world title, would he be a Grand Slam champion due to the fact that he had the Internet Championship? Oh, and what about the $1 Million belt? DiBiase may not have won a primary or a secondary title, but Steve Austin sure has. The whole thing gets a bit complicated because the WWE has a whole bunch of titles throughout their history that definitely would qualify as either secondary or tertiary, but aren't counted for some reason. Under the new criteria, it is pretty cut and dry. Either top tier title, either tag title, and both the IC and US belts. The only possible bid for any wiggle room is the original US belt for McMahon's company, the WWF's United States Championship. I mean, it is a US belt, isn't it? And it was for the company that is now known as the WWE, so shouldn't that count for something? And in that case, the real first Grand Slam winner would be also the first Triple Crown winner, Pedro Morales. Okay, fine, you may think I'm being a bit too technical here, finding all these loopholes. Some of you may think I should just stick to the titles that the WWE laid out and only count the wrestlers that they've named as Grand Slam champions. Well, okay, but here's the thing, there are a few legitimate ones that they're leaving off their list as well. For example, Chris Benoit. He has won the world title, the tag title, the IC title, and the US Championship. But yes, I get it, they choose to ignore him, I understand why, but he is definitely a Grand Slam champion under this new rule. And they also kind of forgot about Dean Ambrose. He was a Grand Slam champion for some time before WWE officially acknowledged him. Also, the big one, what about Bret the Hitman Hart, who joins this version of the Grand Slam when he defeated The Miz for the United States title in 2010. Why isn't he on the list? Furthermore, I realized something else. Why am I fighting for this old format so hard, huh? Who cares if they're trying to bring Roman Reigns onto the list as a Grand Slam champion? With these titles, I get to add Bret Hart and Chris Benoit as Grand Slam champions, and I get to get rid of Triple H and Shawn Michaels. So you know what? F it, I'm in. It's 2017. Out with the old, in with the new. This has been Dave Knows Wrestling. Yeah, I'm out of here. Good.